Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members, and while we're waiting to vote on the next consolidated amendment, I just wanted to take a moment to express my support for this underlying legislation on an issue that's so important to me and to the people that I represent in Cambridge and Somerville, and on an issue that's so important to all of us as we work to represent our constituents across the Commonwealth. As the gentleman from Brighton noted, at the last time that we did a housing bond bill, it was a $1.8 billion bond bill. It was fairly light on policy. And so to be here today with a $6.2 billion bond bill that is packed with pro-housing policies is truly extraordinary. So thank you to you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the gentleman from the North End. Thank you in particular to the chair of the Housing Committee, the gentleman from Westford, for taking the time to meet with all of us to talk about this bill. I have the honor of serving on both the Housing Committee and the Bonding Committee. So between those two committees, we might have heard up to 16 hours of testimony on this legislation. As someone who was raised in public housing that was built and financed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I'm particularly proud of the massive investments that we are making in public housing here today. Over $2 billion for long overdue upgrades to our state public housing stock. In addition, I was so proud to support earlier today the allowing of accessory dwelling units by right, as well as particularly excited that we have included the Tenant's Opportunity to Purchase Act. And as a renter, I find that particularly encouraging as a way to help more people access home ownership. There's so much to be proud with when it comes to this bill, and yet we know that even with all the provisions that we've put forward today, and even with all the provisions that Her Excellency the Governor put forward earlier in the session, if all of this comes to pass, we know it's still not enough to address this ongoing housing emergency. It's an emergency that threatens to become a disaster for seniors, for renters, for low-income folks, for poor folks, for the unhoused, and it's even threatening our economy when we hear the stories of jobs that can't be filled because our employers can't find the workforce that can afford to live in their communities. And so we need new innovative ideas, and that brings me to a concept I've worked on this session, social housing. For those who are new to the concept, social housing is publicly financed, publicly owned, mixed income housing. A century ago, it was actually the original idea for public housing, and the bankers and the real estate industry thought people are going to love this, and they decided to make public housing only for poor people. And we know that that hadn't worked out really well. So this concept of social housing, publicly financed mixed income housing, is making a big comeback here in the United States. In Montgomery County, Maryland, they've proven that it works. I'm really excited that this legislation includes an authorization for a social housing pilot program. And this really dovetails with some of the other major pieces of this bill. $200 million in grants for public housing mixed income demonstration programs, and $250 million for the Momentum Fund, a revolving loan fund to support large-scale mixed income development. Social housing can combine the best elements of these ideas, and it can help us make our money go further. If you think about the ways that we typically spend money on affordable housing, tax credits, grants, vouchers, shelter, the money goes out the door, it does one thing once, and then we never see it again. When we employ a revolving loan fund, and through this concept of social housing, we can deploy state resources to produce more housing, and then the money can come back to the Commonwealth, and we can even pull equity out of these social housing projects in a way that other types of housing production don't allow us to do. So with that, I just want to encourage my colleagues to all join with us in voting in support of the Affordable Homes Act. Again, this is an incredible investment I'm just so thrilled to see a $6.2 billion housing bond bill. Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker.